Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what might actually be the most deceptive parts of the entire English language. I'm talking about articles. You know them, you use them constantly, but how well do you actually understand them? These tiny words, they act exactly like an iceberg. Right on the surface, they look incredibly simple, literally just a few letters long. But hiding just underneath the water, there's this massive, complex world of meaning, context, and some seriously bizarre exceptions. So whether you're just polishing up your grammar or you're totally fascinated by the hidden mechanics of the language we speak every single day, you are absolutely going to want to pay attention to this one.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to start by meeting these tiny words, then learn why sound totally trumps spelling. After that, we'll explore the power of being specific, uncover the invisible zero article, and finally, wrap up by mastering those tricky exceptions that seem to break all the rules.
All right, Section 1. Meet the tiny words. As promised, we're starting right at the very tip of the iceberg with the absolute basics.
You know, despite having hundreds of thousands of words in the English language, just these three little words, a, an, and the, do an unbelievable amount of the heavy lifting. They're basically categorized as adjectives, because their entire job is to sit right in front of a noun and modify it. Think of them like gatekeepers. They immediately signal to our brains whether the noun we're about to hear is something super specific or just one of many general things.
Section 2. Sound over spelling. Let's move on and see how this builds into the first major hurdle for almost every learner.
So, looking at our indefinite articles, a and an, these words simply mean one of many. We use them for singular countable nouns. Now, the basic rule goes like this. You use a before a consonant sound, like a cat or a car, and you use an before a vowel sound, like an apple or an elephant. But wait, notice how I emphasize the word sound there? This choice depends entirely on how the very next word sounds when spoken aloud, completely regardless of how it's actually written on the page. What's really fascinating here is how this proves you have to trust your ears over your eyes. Just look at this comparison. The word hour starts with the consonant H, right? But the H is silent. Your ear hears an vowel sound, so it absolutely must be an hour. On the flip side, university starts with the vowel U, but it makes a hard consonant U sound. Therefore, it has to be a university. It's wild, right? Silent letters and tricky vowels completely flip the written rule. Honestly, if you just look at the spelling, you're going to get it wrong. You really have to listen.
Moving to Section 3, the power of specificity. The crucial point here is knowing exactly when to step up your game and upgrade from general to specific.
And we do that using the definite article, the. This brilliantly illustrates the chronological evolution of a noun in everyday conversation. Imagine step 1. I bought a book. This is the very first mention. The listener doesn't know which book yet, so it's just one of many. It's totally general. But look at step 2. The book is very good. Suddenly, a transforms into the. Why? Because now, both the speaker and the listener know exactly which item we're talking about. The is literally the laser pointer of the English language. It says, hey, look right here at this specific thing we both know about. And the best part? You can use it with singular, plural, countable, and uncountable nouns. It's incredibly versatile. All right, Section 4, the invisible zero article. Now we're sinking below the surface of the iceberg down to the intermediate level. We're entering a space where the most powerful word is sometimes no word at all.
Welcome to the zero article. This is the intentional omission of an article before a noun. And I really want to emphasize the word intentional here. Skipping the article in these cases isn't a mistake. Actually, scratch that. It's a highly active, precise grammatical tool. We use it when we want to talk about plural countable nouns or uncountable nouns in the broadest possible sense. When you want to make a sweeping, general statement about the universe, you just drop the article entirely.
Let's walk through this direct comparison to really lock this in. Over on the left, we have dogs are friendly. No article. This means all dogs, everywhere, the entire canine species across the globe. But on the right, we add our laser pointer, the dogs in my neighborhood are friendly. See how adding just one tiny word shifts the entire meaning? We zoomed all the way in from the entire global species down to just the specific pets living on your street. It's a massive shift in scale. Now, this invisible rule gets really fascinating when we look at institutions. If you're interacting with a place for its primary intended purpose, you use the zero article. For instance, Sarah goes to school means she is actively there to learn. He went to bed means he went to sleep. But if you're just visiting the physical structure for a secondary purpose, you must use the. Sarah's mother isn't a student, right? So she went to the school to meet the teacher.
And our guy isn't sleeping, he just sat on the bed to tie his shoes. So the context completely dictates the grammar.
And context strikes again, this time on the map. It's actually incredibly systematic once you see it. Plurals, mountain ranges, and island groups always get the Himalayas, the Atlantic Ocean, the Bahamas. But isolated, singular, and geographic features get absolutely nothing, just the zero article. So it's Mount Everest, Lake Victoria, Madagascar. It's this brilliant little binary system hiding right in plain sight on every single map.
And finally, Section 5, Mastering the Exceptions. All right, hold your breath, folks, because we've reached the deepest, darkest part of the iceberg. These are the advanced exceptions where standard logic seems to completely disappear. Did you know advanced speakers actually manipulate articles to completely change the tone of how they talk about entire species or classes of things? It's true. For example, you can use the plus a singular noun. The tiger is a solitary hunter. That sounds very formal, very scientific, kind of like you're narrating a nature documentary. Or you can use a plus a singular noun. A tiger is a dangerous animal, meaning any typical representative tiger. Or, lastly, you can use the zero article with a plural. Tigers are solitary hunters. This last one is definitely your best bet for casual, everyday conversation. So you've got 3 different structures, all describing the exact same concept, just with totally different flavors.
So we can handle tigers and mountains just fine. But what happens when we talk about diseases, time, or how we travel? Well, when logic fails, we enter the realm of idiomatic expressions. These are the tricky phrases that advanced learners simply have to memorize because the rules go right out the window.
Just consider the bizarre reality of medical English. If you have a really serious disease, it usually takes the zero article. You have cancer, or diabetes, or COVID-19. But if you have a common, contagious ailment, you suddenly use the. You catch the flu or the measles. And if you just have a symptom, well, then you use an indefinite article. You get a headache, a cold, or a fever. There is literally no underlying logic as to why cancer gets nothing, but a cold gets an A. It's just the way the language is naturally settled over time.
And look at how we talk about travel. When you're describing your general mode of transport, using the word by, you use the zero article. You travel by car, by bus, by train. But check out what happens the exact moment you care about the specific vehicle. The moment it's not just a concept anymore, but a physical object you are entering, you have to add an article. And doing that forces you to completely change your preposition. You can't say by a car, no way. You have to say in a car or on the 8 a.m. train. It's a whole chain reaction just from adding one tiny word. Now, if you're feeling a little frustrated by these exceptions right now, don't worry because even native speakers can't agree. Across the Atlantic, American English and British English completely diverge on the rules for institutions. An American will say, he is in the hospital, demanding that definite article. But a British speaker will treat it just like school or bed and use the zero article saying, he is in hospital. Neither of these is wrong. They're just completely different regional realities. And that brings us to our final thought. We've gone from the simple a, and the, all the way down to the unspoken zero article, and navigated through that tangled web of exceptions. So I want to leave you with this. If the absolute smallest words in English can shape reality and meaning this much, what other invisible rules govern the way we communicate every single day? I highly challenge you to pay close attention to these tiny, powerful words in your own daily conversations. Keep listening, keep noticing the structures around you, and most importantly, keep your curiosity sharp. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.